You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for music lovers. I'm your host, Kelly. Music is a thread that weaves a course throughout our lives. Join me on a journey to unravel that thread and bring you the stories behind what inspires musicians to create. Side note, Tapestry is an uncensored podcast. Don't say I didn't warn you. Holy crap, episode 63, everyone. It's been quite a while, so if you're seeing this notification and you're just as perplexed as I am that I'm putting out an episode like 10 months later, let me just say thanks for coming back and listening. So a lot of life happened to me, but all very good things. So before I lead into my intro for episode 63, just again, thank you for coming back if you've been a listener for a while. And without further ado, I was really excited to have on my friends Mike Eubanks and Nate Gilcher for this episode. Even though it was a long coming out of hiatus episode, these two guys have their own podcast where they talk about music, so it only felt appropriate. Aside from discussing that podcast, we also talked about lots of things, such as how we are all alumni of the same university, how Mike has experience as a drummer arranging for college marching bands, our marching band histories, Nate's background in terrestrial radio, and their individual journeys into music. I know it's been a while, but it feels good to be back in some way, and I hope you enjoy the episode. This next track you're going to hear is a small snippet of the band that Mike plays drums in called Amethystone. This track is called Hold On. This meeting is being recorded. Yes, it is.
For quality assurance.
Yeah. Please press 1 for English. Wow. Okay, well, holy shit. Talk about being rusty. I have not done an episode of Tapestry since December of 2021, so this will be my first and likely last episode in 2022. But nonetheless, for anyone listening, thank you for tuning in. I have some special guests here tonight. That would be Nate. You wrote it down, but it is Nate Gilcher, correct?
Wow. Yes, correct.
Bing.
Yeah.
Good job on the phonetics.
That never
Nate
happens
Gilcher.
on the first try.
All right. Well, go me. Got Nate Gilcher and Mike Eubanks here of the Nate and Mike Talk Music podcast and so much more. So, gentlemen, welcome. We've been chit-chatting for like 20 minutes before this, but whatever. Welcome to my show officially. And God, it really has been so long. I honestly forget how I do this. So
no rules.
I think in order to break the ice, we're gonna do as you guys do on your show and crack open a beer and tell me about it. So Mike, I think you had one at the ready. I'm gonna let you go first.
I do.
Make sure you get that sweet crack.
So Heather and I are prepping for Fall Fest, which is the fall Ohio Brew Week event. And it's basically they do a concert on top of the parking garage here in Athens. And so yes. Heather went out and grabbed a bunch of beers for to feature this week coming up for that event. And there's a bunch of breweries that sponsor, et cetera, et cetera. So when you told me, hey, we're gonna crack beers on my show like we do on your show, I was like, well, I've got a fridge full of beer right now. So
beautiful.
I went and grabbed a Jackie O's, and
Perfect.
This is the Off-Duty Lifeguard. And it is a wheat ale with mango, guava, and passion fruit.
Wow, stuff has changed since I went to OU. Holy crap, they didn't have that beer then.
Sounds good, though.
That's for sure. That sounds great.
I haven't had it. We're going to see.
Okay, doing an on-air taste test here.
It's Jackie O's. It's delicious. I mean, winner.
Okay, Nate, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm going with good old reliable Natty Light because it's all I have in the fridge right now. And I will tell you, if you're still into the Facebook thing, the Natty Light Facebook page is so fun to follow.
They're crushing
All they
it.
do is make fun of Miller Lite and talk about how good their beer is. It's a fantastic page.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're crushing it. What was it, yesterday or 2 days ago? They posted, there's two types of people who love Natty and liars.
And liars, yeah.
Their Facebook guy is killing it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, to celebrate that, I guess I'll crack my beer here.
Yeah.
Which, against all of my better judgment, I'm drinking the 50 West OU Oh Yeah Hot Nut beer. And so I'm saying this generally, breaking the fourth wall. All three of us in this digital room right here are all Ohio University alumni. And so this beer is a prime example of when innuendos get taken too far and then turn into a beer. So obviously this is the Tony's Hot Nut Shot. What is that? What is hazelnut liqueur and black coffee? Right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Okay.
Frangelica and coffee.
Greatest shot on earth at Tony's in Athens, Ohio, but turned into a beer. So the reason I said against my better judgment is because this is an 11.5%, and I have to host this interview and be coherent. So I'm going to be sipping.
Yeah, go slow.
I mean, we never worry about that.
Very slowly.
We never worry about that on our show. We just go.
I think we were probably in the 8th episode before I told Mike, hey, we may want to slow down drinking.
Yeah.
We're really slurred at the end of the hour.
Oh my God. I drink one of these and I'm like passed out on the couch upside down. But anyway, this is not a podcast about my drinking habits. It is a podcast about you guys and how you came to be the musicians you are today. So being that there are two of you, I typically just start asking you questions, start asking you about your background, but I'll try not to play favorites. Mike, I know more about you, but Nate, I can't wait to learn more about you. I'm going to start off with you, Nate.
Okay.
Tell me about kind of who you are, what instruments you play, how you got to be in the radio and music world that you're in now.
Yeah, it's pretty simple for me. I just grew up in a musical family. My dad played guitar, sang my entire life. Both of my brothers are singers. My one brother sings full-time in a band. My mom was just a huge music fan, didn't play any instruments or sing, but she was all about it. So I grew up musically. I'm one of those rare people that probably knew what I wanted to do for a living at kindergarten. 5, 6 years old, I knew I wanted to be on the radio. Because of that, I had toys that were radio and microphone related my whole life. In fact, I found one. I got a toy radio console for Christmas one year. I think we figured it out. I think I was 10. And
nice.
I hunted for that thing for most of my adult life, and I found one on eBay a couple of years back, and I immediately bought it. And the only thing it's missing is the original headphones. It works. It's got 2 tape decks, some sound effect machines, and a microphone, and it's in a box in my closet, and that's where it shall stay until a further date. So yeah, I went to college with the full intention of being in radio, and I just figured if that didn't work out, I'd find something else musical to do. Didn't really play instruments. I mean, I played in the marching band my whole life. I played sousaphone in the marching 110. But as far as I play ukulele now, played for 7 or 8 years. I dabble a little guitar. But as far as that kind of stuff, I didn't really get into that until later in life, after college, fatherhood. You have kids settle down a little bit, you get some spare time, and I picked up a ukulele. So, I mean, I haven't really been playing.
Is it hanging behind you, I see?
These are 2 that I don't play. I have
decorative ukulele?
Yeah. How many do you have?
I have 7. Yeah. But in fairness to me, only one of them was purchased. They were all gifts. 6 of them were gifts in some way, shape, or form. And they're not really expensive like guitars. If you had 7 guitars, I'd be like, man, what do you do for a living? But
yep.
You can get a good ukulele for $50, $100. So I don't feel too bad about that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
We won't talk about how many cymbals I have.
Right. So, yeah.
Mike, as a drummer, we may end up talking about how many cymbals you have. So, okay. Mike, I believe that ball is in your court. Who are you? What do you do?
Man, a little bit of everything. So, to tell my musical story, I guess, kind of how Nate did. I also grew up in a very musical household. There was always music playing. My dad actually, for years, sang barbershop. He was in a barbershop quartet for many, many years. My mom played piano in the house all the time. So, there's actually, we've on our show, we've talked about, the family influence that we've had, the artists that you love, that your parents always listen to, and those things. So also very musical household. I started playing guitar before I started playing drums. And that surprises a lot of people. It would if you heard me play guitar. You would be like, really? That was your first instrument?
I don't feel that way at all. You're a fantastic guitar player.
Rhythm player. Well, I'll take that, but
Sure.
no leads.
Hey, they're important
for me. But no. So I started playing guitar in 5th grade, and then 6th grade joined band like you do, and chose percussion and have just been in love with the drums ever since. I mean, it's going on like 5 years of playing drums at this point, which seems ridiculous, but yeah, I love everything drums. And I'm in a band called Amethystone, which we'll get into at some point.
Yep.
And yeah, just active, still play, still teach private lessons. My main side gig for drums right now is drumline arranging. I write for people all over the place.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get into that because I think it's quite funny that, this is my 63rd episode, and I can still very clearly remember being like, okay, I'm going to do a podcast, and I'd like record this little intro episode, and I just was like waxing extremely nostalgic about my marching band upbringing, and people who know me now, like, they see me mostly as a metal fan and like a pretty diverse music listener, but I'm always so intrigued by people who grow up with a marching band background and how it just informs who they are. I mean, everything about that lifestyle and that activity really changes how you treat discipline, how you work well with other people, how quickly you pick up on things. I mean, it's just, I cannot imagine how much worse off my life would have been without marching band, and it definitely would not have made me the musician I am today. I'm curious how you guys feel about that as like the foundation to your own musical path now.
Musical path, maybe more for me. It's 9 out of my 10 best friends I met in the 110, like to this day. I mean, it's, I don't know. I was talking with one of those folks the other day, and we were saying how unique, and we're going to brag right now, the OU band, how unique the family aspect of that band is compared to.
Yep.
And I don't, if you marched in a college band, I'm sure you had a great social, fabric through that group that you were in, and I'm not discounting that at all, but there's something special. I don't know if it's the Hocking River water or something, but there's something special about that group. I 100% believe that. I'm friends with people who marched 30 years before I did, and I'm friends with people who march now, 25 years after me. You know what I mean? Like,
it's how I met you. It's how I met you guys. Well, you, Mike, more so. I mean, I met you through Julia Brewer, and we didn't march together. We never touched the field at the same time, but it feels like I've known you longer than I have because of that shared family aspect.
100%. That's
Nate.
For me,
what are your thoughts on that?
I literally would not be the person I am without marching band. Terry Krause, for those of you who don't know, one of the founding members of the Marching Men of Ohio way back in 1967, was my high school director, and so. I grew up so far from Athens that the chances of me going there without having some exposure to the 110, journalism too, because that was my major at OU. But for the most part, if it weren't for that band, I probably wouldn't have gone to OU. I wouldn't have met my wife, who's another 110er. I mean, I literally would be someone different if it weren't for marching band. And I grew up playing sports. I was a three-letter varsity athlete. Band was just something I did for fun because I didn't play football. But what was funny about it was a lot of my friends were jocks, but I was in the band. So I had both social circles, but in my school, it was so small, it didn't matter. And I converted a lot of my basketball buddies to marching band geeks. Like they'll send me videos now in our mid 40s, like, Gilcher, did you see this? And I'm like, yeah, I subscribed to that page. I
saw it,
but these are guys that, went on to play college football, a couple of them and stuff like that. And, they'll always ask me, hey, how's the 110 sound this year? So I literally would be a different person for sure.
I was going to say, jump in with the same thing. My wife was not in the 110, but her freshman roommate at OU was, which is how I met her. Okay. So you're right, Nate. I would be a different person if I hadn't been in the band. 100%.
that really struck me too, being a non-Ohioan when I came to OU, because I'm from Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's
PA,
right. Yeah.
And, I was kind of relentlessly made fun of my freshman year because that whole "where are you from" in Ohio thing, it's so goddamn tight knit, and it was just like, we don't care where you're from Pittsburgh. Like, Clevelanders, Columbus people, Dayton, Cincy, Toledo, they're all fucking piling on me. You're like, Steelers, and I'm like, I'll pretend to like the Browns or something if it means I make friends. But what I found so uniquely satisfying about the college marching band experience was, even though you might still have these squabbles off the field, when you are on that field, you kind of lose who you are for a moment in time. You must cooperate. You have to, you have to put your differences aside in order to achieve a common goal. And I didn't have a team sports background, so that was kind of new to me aside from my high school marching band career. But you're right, Mike. There's something just so, like, I don't know, unifying is too weak of a word. I mean, I can replay all the memories I've had from the years in the 110 and just the bus trips and all that other stuff. And I'm sure football players get that too, basketball players get that too, but there's just something so insane about it. Yes? Oh, I see the mugs. Yes.
Oh.
So Mike is pointing behind him on his camera to his beer steins.
My
and you know
3
what?
senior mugs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so that's a tradition that they give the seniors all these ceramic mugs. I didn't get one because I couldn't march my senior year, and you have 3. I think you should redistribute those to the new.
I have 2.
I marched 3 senior years. Yeah. So.
How did you do that? How did you march?
You can have one of
years?
mine, honestly. I've got 2.
No, how did you march? How many victory laps?
Oh, hell, there were no rules back then. I mean, most of us didn't even take it as a class until the law was laid down on that.
Right.
You just showed up to practice. And
when did you guys march, roughly?
97 to 01 for me.
96 to 01 with a gap.
West.
Yeah, I didn't march in 98. I didn't march in 98. That's why I have 3 senior mugs, because
oh my God,
my 3rd year in band was technically my 4th year in school.
Okay.
And then I did 2 more.
Yeah.
It was definitely a different time.
And
it really
there are people who have way more mugs than I do.
Oh yeah.
So don't
oh my God.
Yeah. Now you only get one.
Tell on them.
Now you only get one.
You only get one senior year.
Yeah, and now I know. I mean, there's certain things we obviously can't go on the record with, or else Dr. Sook's going to come to my house and burn it down.
Yeah, I don't need that either. Yeah,
yeah, obviously, but there's certain traditions that are no longer allowed, and all I can say is raise a glass to the times that we had.
Marching 8 years is one of those traditions that's no longer allowed.
You can do 7 now. You could do 7.
You could theoretically do 7. Yeah,
5 undergrad and 2 grad if you wanted to.
I don't think you could afford 7 years of marching band at this point with the rate of inflation right now.
True. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy crap. Okay, so attempting to segue from that may be difficult, but because you guys are such separate people with such separate projects, I guess let me focus on you for a bit here, Mike.
Sure.
Let's go back to the arranging stuff. I have always been so curious about that because you were center snare in the 110, right?
I was. I shared center with Beavis. I was marching section leader.
Okay.
So
damn.
So number 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Still
yeah.
important role.
Yeah.
So did you get interested in the drumline composing and arranging when you were in the 110? Did you get to write any charts then?
Oh yeah. So actually, I mean, I started writing from my high school line in high school.
Oh, nice.
So, just going way back to then, I remember being a freshman in high school, right? Coming into the drum line, first time, brand new thing. I walked in and I was so disappointed because nothing was written down.
Oh.
It drove me nuts. That still drives me nuts. So the director literally said on the first day of training week as a freshman in high school, they said, all right, drumline, go outside and teach the freshmen the cadences. And they literally just played them over and over and over and over again until we got it. And I'm like, this is so inefficient.
Yeah.
So when I got to be a junior, the section leader and myself, we sat down and wrote everything down so that we had copies so we could teach the people coming in. You could even give it to them before it was just insane to me that nothing was written down. So that started it. And then I want to say my senior year, director came to me, and I was drumline section leader in high school, and he said, I want to play this chart, but it's written for jazz band. So there's no drumline part. It's just a drum set part here. Write the drumline part so we can play this next week.
How did you teach yourself to do that? Because as a drummer myself, that is my major struggle, is because I play other instruments. So I learn pretty much everything by ear, even though I can read sheet music. But when it comes to drum sheet music, dude, it's like my tongue is hanging out of my mouth. How do you transition that? I mean, I just go by feel and ear. It's very difficult, especially with really complex rhythmic stuff like drumline.
Right. I mean, I guess it just comes from, I started on percussion in 5th grade. So, I mean, it's just been a progression of learning how to read it and then learning how to read even more complex stuff rhythmically. And I don't know. I can't explain how I got there, I guess. But then the first chart I wrote for the 110 was in 97. And it was, what was it? Peace of Mind, the downfield.
Are you kidding me? I didn't know that was yours.
Yeah, so that was the first first chart I ever wrote for the 110 was in 97. And then I've been writing for them literally ever since. I mean, some years
what are some of your big hits?
Oh my gosh.
I just want to see if I've played them.
I guarantee you have. Drum parts that I've written for the 110. Holy shit. Mr. Roboto. Smooth Criminal.
I love that one.
Trying to think of ones that have come back around.
Right. That's always the boomerang effect with college marching band. We're just gonna pick, standards.
Yeah, that come back. Those are the two that I know of come back multiple times. Man, there's so many. It's not even
right.
It's not even funny.
I'm putting you on the spot. But so you were telling me before too that you're now arranging for the University of Wyoming band.
Yep.
And so listeners out there, I am assuming this is a pretty niche topic. Ohio University Marching 110 alumni music fan podcast. But Joe Carver is like a pretty well-known person in the 110 marching band sphere. So how did you get that gig? And when did he end up out there?
This is year 4 for him. So
good for him.
We missed each other by a year. So his freshman year in the 110 was the year after. So 2002 was the year after I left. But again, we were talking about that whole family thing. Joe and I have been friends since then. You know what I mean? Like drum lines. I don't know how tubas are or how other.
Yeah, you do.
Well, no, I mean with their like alumni.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Interactions. I very much know how tubas are. But we've been friends for years. I wrote a couple charts for him when he was at Johnstown, I think. So when he was, right out of school, he was one of the directors at Johnstown. And then he went off did grad school at OSU, got his PhD, all of that good stuff, and then got the University of Wyoming job. And it was last year when he called me and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to start doing custom shows, custom arrangements." Because I think they were pretty much playing just stock charts then. You know what I mean? When he first came in, they were playing mostly stock stuff. And so he said, I'm going to start doing custom arrangements, current stuff, rock songs, current songs. And most of the time you can't get a current song unless you have somebody custom write it for you because it's not published yet. So,
well, and like the pipeline, I mean, the idea on the radio pipeline, I'm sure is so quick. Nate can obviously elaborate on that as a radio guy. I mean, nothing stays in the spotlight for very long these days.
Right.
Like our attention spans are so short. So, and I mean, to those out there who aren't familiar with how the 110 has always operated, our thing was playing recognizable pop hits. Sure, we'd play classic stuff, vintage stuff, but like my freshman year shows in 2008, Viva La Vida, 4 Minutes to Save the World, stuff that was actively on the radio. One. Yes, nice. That's one of my favorite charts. Seriously,
I wrote that drum part.
It was bound to happen. Okay. You were gonna name
Beautiful.
one. Yeah,
I'm just like naming it off. That's awesome. Yeah, so you got to stay current. I can't imagine how difficult that is to try to go up. No pressure, but I kind of need this Dua Lipa chart tonight, Mike. Like
that's literally what happens. I mean, so this first show that they're doing, this year. So I usually get a couple charts here and there. I'm not like for the 110 anyway. I'm not the there is no primary arranger for the 110 because always the guys in the line, right? But I've been doing it for so long. Dr. Slocum's just like, hey, this is a mic chart. I want him to I want you to write this one. Like he'll just he'll throw them to me.
I never knew that.
Oh yeah.
So this was happening behind my stupid trombone this whole time when the drum line. Oh my God, that just blew my mind.
Yeah, the drum line writes their own stuff and alumni write. And yeah, so
I knew that, but I didn't know they were also actively writing. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I just need a moment. That's insane.
That's what I was going to say is the current drumline section leader this year marched DCI. He marched Cavaliers. So he was gone.
My favorite.
He was center. He was center at Cavies this year. So he was gone, literally gone all summer. So Dr. Zook called and he's like, Logan's gone. So here, you're writing the whole first show here. And I, of course, didn't get the last wind chart, the wind score until Thursday night, and training week started Saturday morning.
That's insane.
So I was just like,
it's a turnaround.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And that happens every time.
No milk and cookies for you.
No. And that happens every time. Well, if you want to be current, hey, what's on the radio now? You have like a week and a half turnaround to make it happen. And that's literally what they do. I mean, I can see because I'm in the Google Drive because that's where I upload all my stuff so they can have it. I see their show planning and they haven't even finished planning all of the songs for the second show that they're going to start learning
which is
next week.
Saturday. Yeah, right. Okay.
Oh
my God.
Yeah, not just current either, but relevant. Staying current is one thing, but not playing the new Nickelback song, but playing Dua Lipa that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
You got to be relevant as well.
Nate, can you speak to that? So you are a radio host, and you are kind of in the pop, rock, metal world, right?
Yeah. So I do a midday shift on our rock station. I do afternoons on the pop station. So I'm all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah. Did country radio for years too. So.
Wow. So what is that workload like? I mean, like how long would you say a song kind of lasts in rotation these days in the digital streaming age where you're still working in terrestrial radio?
Yeah,
what's the lifespan?
It gets shorter and shorter every year. So it's different from genre to genre too. If you've ever listened to your local pop station and you're like, they play this song every 15 minutes, you're not far off.
That Kid Leroy song with Justin Bieber, I want to blow my brains.
Okay, so the way radio automation works is your songs are all divided into categories, and you have your A's. Those are your brand new songs. Those are only going to be by pillar artists in the genre, and they're going to rotate. So if you have, and you never have more than like 8 songs in your A category. So it's the top 8 on the charts for the most part. So basically, you're going to have that song repeat every 4 hours if you have 4 songs in your A category. So that's the rock world. Now, pop is a little different. Artist separation, meaning, you can only play so many songs by this artist within a time frame of each other. Artist separation in pop radio is 15, 20, 25 minutes. So you could hear Maroon 5 at the top of the hour. You're going to hear it again at the bottom because it's not breaking a computer rule. So, so to my point, the A songs, especially in rock radio, an A song, Korn comes out with a new album. Their songs usually go right to the A category, regardless of how it charts, because that's a pillar artist. They deserve it. Now, whether it stays there is a different thing. But so an A song used to last months, used to have the same A category for 5-6 months sometimes. And now it's more like 2 months max. I mean, I'll go to our music director and I'll say, hey, what happened to the new Shinedown song? He's like, dude, it's gone. It's down into C category now. I'm like, wow, that's barely lasted. So the attention span has gotten shorter. That's a very accurate statement. You get one song now months before a whole album comes out. So by the time the album comes out, you're done with this song and you can't wait for the next one, and you want them rapid fire because that's how you get them on your iPod. So it's
kind of depressing.
A little
don't you think?
A little bit. Yeah.
Especially as you guys like growing up with radio and I'm presuming, records and all the physical media that basically my generation, kind of shoved on its way out. Like, how do you feel about that in terms of how it's changed our music listening habits?
I don't care for a lot of the changes. I still like a physical copy in my hand. I have over 2,000 CDs. I still buy them. Ironically,
Same.
I don't own a single CD player except for the one that's built into my car.
Single-handedly keeping the music industry running.
I know.
Good for you, man.
If it's a band I really like and respect, I want to have the physical copy in my hands. When I was a kid, my uncle had a room of like 800 vinyl albums, and when he switched from vinyl to CD, he gave those to my two cousins. He said, "I don't care how you divide them up, but these are yours. And someday I'm going to give my kids these thousands of CDs, and I'm going to say, I don't care what you do with them, but divide them up evenly." I like that idea.
Don't put them in a garage sale somewhere.
Yeah.
Please don't do that.
Right.
That's all I ask.
I also still buy physical media. I still buy CDs.
And
looks like some vinyls over there. I can see maybe.
No, they're all upstairs.
Okay.
I'm down in the
books.
dungeon. Yeah, I read too.
No, to me that's my biggest thing. The rest of the changes I can live with. I work in an industry that was supposed to be dead 50 times already. Color TV was going to kill radio, tapes, CDs, records. It was all going to kill terrestrial radio, and we're still here. So anything else I can adapt to, but not having the physical copy of my favorite artist. That's the one thing that one change, and I'm like, get off my lawn.
Yeah, I still like to read the liner notes while I'm listening to it the first time.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah, well, we're at a very weird impasse with all this stuff right now, because like now that I'm in a band and we're working on music slowly, but still working on it, people are like, dropping little hints, and they're like, "Oh, when are you guys putting a single out?" And I'm like, in my naive world, I'm like, single? We're working on an album. I'm not giving you a single. But then I'm like, you have to nowadays.
Good luck with that. Yeah,
you have to. Like, no one. Even if we drop 2 or 3 singles before the album, people still are gonna have no fucking clue who we are, because people just move on that fast, and I really resent that. Like, I am nostalgic for days that almost existed before my time, where you could sit down with an album and enjoy it as a piece of art, like as something that's crafted from start to finish.
Yeah.
That makes me sound like a giant snob, but it is a different way to listen to music that I think is slowly going the way of the dodo, sadly.
Well, if that makes you a snob, then you're on a call with 2 other snobs.
Yeah, seriously.
Then. Perfect.
I mean, talking about liner notes, I still like to, if I'm listening to a song, I'm like, man, is that so-and-so playing the saxophone part there? It has to be. And, back then you just unfolded the liner notes. Now you have Wikipedia, but it's
right. So
those kind of changes, I don't mind. I'll adapt to that. Whatever's quickest. I need the info quick in that scenario, but yeah, I'm with Ika, man. Sorry, Mike.
It's fine.
I used to love sitting with the liner notes when I got a new album, and that was, you just locked yourself in your room for 2 hours, and it was.
Did you ever feel ripped off when you went and bought a tape and you pulled the tape out and it was just one? There was nothing.
Yes.
I always felt so ripped off. I want the freaking
your Dollar General receipt,
I want to know who produced this. I want to know.
Right.
I want to know who played the freaking castanets on the 3rd song. Like, I want to know that stuff. I always got so mad when it was just the one little sleeve, like dollar store.
I need to know if that's Vinnie Colaiuta playing the claves in the background.
Right.
I need to know
great
that.
Example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I was mad if there was
you would read who produced the album, and especially as a teenager, you'd be like, oh, I don't know, Bob Cornelius, I don't know who that is. But then that guy comes up later in life and it's subject, you're going to say, hey, he produced blah, blah, blah. And then people are going to go, oh my God, how'd you know that?
I read the liner notes.
I did
my homework.
Mike Klink.
He produced something kind of cool. Yeah.
Or did he engineer it? I don't remember, but Mike Klink worked on that album. I know that much. Yeah.
It's just, things have changed. I mean, as you get older, I think you start to cling tighter to the things you really cherished, and whatever. I'm as you guys learned, having me on your podcast, I'm obviously a prog snob, and say what you want to say about prog or how kind of hackneyed and goofy it can be, but there are not a lot of genres that I think profess the craft of musicianship the way that stuff did from the 70s through the early 90s. Like, I don't know. There's a different purpose for music creation nowadays. I'm sure everybody still uses it as an outlet, and I can't speak for every musician. Obviously, everyone makes music for different reasons, but I just hate the whole cycle. I hate the industry and the way it's changing people to stray from their format simply to sell a record.
It's always been the case, though, right? I mean, that's nothing really new. Yeah. And I'll tell you, and I agree with what you're saying.
Maybe it's just a faster. It's
faster,
now,
and you're clinging to the things that you love because you're getting older. But when we
I say as I drink my beer, that's going to knock me out in like half an hour if I don't stop.
When we had you on our show, that was probably the episode where I learned the most. Honestly, that one episode I got my education. I mean, you two were way ahead of me in that genre, and some of the stuff we listened to that night really blew my mind and really kind of opened me to that genre.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, as far as some of the stuff you played that night, I was really like, man, I mean, it's good. And it's just stuff that I had no exposure to, up until that point.
I hadn't really listened to Supertramp or Uriah Heep very much, but I mean, it's a sharing of ideas, and I do appreciate that. So while we're on that topic, let's talk about your podcast. So the Nate and Mike Talk Music podcast is a wonderful little podcast, and I know because I've been on it. You guys were kind enough to have me on, but when did you start doing that? And actually, honestly, I want to go back even a step further and say, aside from being in the 110 together, how did you guys become friends? Because Nate, you were a tuba player, Mike, you're a drummer. There's a clash of clans there. Not always intersectional violence sometimes occurs. How did you two become friends?
You want to take that to start? I mean, it's a great story.
There are a couple facets to the story. There are pieces. So I'll try to tap into my faulty memory, and then Nate can tap into his faulty memory, and we'll see if we can
like Slash's book. Somebody reading it will remember how it really happened.
Yeah. So there used to be this thing, the tuba percussion war, and basically it was just goofy pranks.
Oh yeah.
Like if I left my stick sitting on my drum for 2 seconds while I took my hoodie off, Nate's going to run up and grab them and throw them in the hocking in the river or over into the trees right before the FC blows the whistle, and I'm going to have to run. Yeah, just stupid stuff like that. Or we'll steal a tuba bell and put it up in the tree by the practice field. Like silly stuff like that.
Went to blow my horn one time before practice. No sound came out. It was full of walnuts or whatever were on that one tree.
Chawapis.
The chawapis. Yeah, chawapis. Full of chawapis.
Is that what you guys call the monkey balls? The green things?
Yeah, I mean, they were green anyway.
Yeah, you'd break them up.
Yeah.
Chawapis.
Yeah.
I learned something today.
You know,
okay.
You know about Tom McKee, right? I mean,
no.
He sucks chawapis. Yeah, that's the alternate lyrics to the alma mater. Tom McKee sucks chawapis.
I didn't. What?
That's another story for another day.
Conversation on that one.
This is a story within a story. Okay, so all right, so the tuba percussion.
Yeah, and so that was some goofy stuff, and then I want to say, well, one reason why Nate and I became friends is because he was dating one of my best friends, who is his now wife, Beth. And Beth and I have been buds forever. And then when they started dating, I was like, well, I guess this tuba guy's all right. I guess I don't know. If she likes him, I guess it's okay. And we kind of started hanging out. Then there was another piece. And I think all of these things combined to make it work. One of the other things was Nate and my last year in the band, which is 2001. Nate was FC, and
big freaking deal. Yeah. I need to ask you about.
He was FC, and I was on marching staff. Right, I was marching section leader for the drumline, and I feel like at that training week, we really bonded in that staff environment, working together to help.
You're in the trenches.
Yeah, I really feel like that. I remember the first day walking out, we're all hungover as shit. It's like 8 a.m. We got to have this staff rehearsal. I think they do that in the afternoon now because they're smart. But so we walk out, and I remember walking out, and Nate was like, "You guys ready?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he literally ripped his sleeve off and put it on his head and was like, "Let's go." And just from then on, Nate is the king of the sleeve do-rag. He'll just literally rip his sleeve off and put it on his head. I clearly remember him doing that at staff camp.
How many pairs of blacks did you ruin, Nate?
I actually technically only cut sleeves off one black shirt the entire time, and that was the one I wore. And then I got superstitious, and I only wore that at home games. underneath my uniform at home games. Yeah.
Okay. So it was just really luck of the draw that you guys just were in the same place at the same time.
Well, there was the whole Clam Fest. There was the whole Clam Fest thing too.
That was the other piece. You can talk about that piece.
Yeah, these things all happened rapid fire too, within weeks and months of each other.
And you'll need to preface Clam Fest. For
so back in our day, Clam Fest was a big band only party that you put on, and everybody paid money, and there was clams and barbecue ribs and beer, and just a big dumb party. And we got wind that like people who were, hosting Clam Fest were using the money to pay the rent. There was all these rumors that went around, all these conspiracy theories. And then one year, and I had just started to date Beth, so I was just starting to hang with the drum guys. And I remember telling my tuba section, like, hey, I hung out with a couple of these guys and they're pretty cool. Like, I remember that conversation as well. Like, so they raised the price on Clam Fest our last year, 2001, and they made it like outrageous, and like people weren't going to go, and only half the band was going to be there because it was expensive, and it was just dumb. And I don't know how the conversation started or happened, but we ended up having a tuba percussion party the same night as we rivaled Clam Fest.
So me and Les's apartment.
Yeah, so it was us, it was the drums, and it was some flags, and then a various handful of other instruments.
Flags.
Yeah, and
when there were flags.
We called it Anti-Clam Fest. We actually called it that because it was the same night, and we had quite a few people. That was a big part of the start of our relationship too. Just the two sections working together to put that on.
I love that.
It all kind of happened at once. Yeah.
All these memories are flooding back. Like, I completely forgot about Clam Fest. I never went to Clam Fest. I just forgot all about it. But, oh my God. Okay, so really match made in heaven. You guys just became quick friends. Mm-hmm. And then, fast forward quite a few years now, and you guys are, you're about, 20-something episodes in, right?
Yeah, we'll be, okay. Season 2 ended not too long ago. We'll probably be starting season 3 here pretty shortly, actually. We do 10 episodes, then we take a couple months off because we were talking about this before. You were saying how hard it is to schedule and how hard it is to constantly put these out. And I think the way we've done it is we line it up and we know, okay, for 10 weeks in a row, boom, 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 or every 2 weeks, we line it up as a season and we know that it's scheduled. We have all the guests lined up, or we have our topics picked out, and then we just churn it out, and then we take time off, and then it's and then it's like, okay, hey, and then either he'll text me or you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, and then we'll do the next season, and it's just been, I mean, it's a blast. I mean, whether anybody listens or not, we don't really care because we have so much fun doing it that it's, we get to talk to cool people like you and have great guests, and we have really, really good conversations and listen to great music. That's.
I like how you guys do your show in that you, yes, you'll have different musicians on, but, like you had me on for your progressive music episode. You had the thing all about Taylor Hawkins. You've covered various topics. Or actually, Mike, what was the episode? I don't remember which episode it was. It was the one where you picked that one Sting song where Vinnie Colaiuta's playing on it, and it's like 5/4.
That was the drummers episode.
The drummers episode.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, and you're talking about John Bonham, and I like that you guys kind of give a focus to each of your episodes. As you can tell, I'm like squirrel brain conversation all the time. I just go with the flow, but there's a value, I think, to people getting to know who you are and tuning in specifically to see what your perspective is on this. These guys know their shit. What are they going to say about black metal today?
And by the way, you were the reason for our prog rock episode. You weren't. It wasn't like we were going to talk about that and then invited you on. Mike said to me, I know this Kelly girl, and she's all about the prog rock. She's got her own podcast. She knows her. I mean, literally, that's the way we've done that.
Oh, well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It was so much fun.
And like Mike said, we don't really care if anyone's listening. So our podcast is literally an extension of our friendship. It's what we do when we're together anyway. We had talked about.
I remember you guys talking about that, the Dream Theater thing and Rush, and
we had talked about doing a podcast for a while, and we would sit around and drink beer and just listen to music. And then one day, it was during the pandemic, since we couldn't hang out together. He was like, "You ready to start just recording these conversations?" It was something like that. I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yep. Well, but also remember too, we'd talked about doing it for a while.
Right.
The problem was with our format, the way we do it is, we have to be able to play the songs that we're talking about, or nobody would listen to it.
Yeah.
And the big issue with that is, well, how do we do that without getting copyright strikes or getting taken down all the time? So it took a long time. We were trying to figure out, well, if we do it here, and then tell people to go over to Spotify and listen to it. Nobody's going to do that.
Right.
So what kicked it was I happened to be on some blog or some tech blog, and big news was, Spotify purchases Anchor.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked into it, and boom, Anchor is, those of you out there listening, Anchor is the platform that Nate and I use to put our podcast out, and it's owned by Spotify. So we can play any song on Spotify legally on our podcast, and we don't get in trouble for copyright because the artist still gets paid for that play.
Right.
That still counts for them.
And that format works beautifully because that you guys solved the problem that you didn't know I even had, like before you even knew me. Like I wanted to do that too, and I had to do that. Yeah, I had to do that manually. Like obviously a lot of the bands I'm talking to, it wasn't like humongous follower counts and stuff where anyone's gonna know what their stuff is to get a copyright strike, but it still doesn't matter. You still want to give them that play and that listen, and I couldn't really find a way to do that. So I'm happy that you have a format that works with that now.
Yeah, that was honestly literally what made it okay. We can actually do this now. Because without that, we wouldn't have a platform to be able to do that. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's been super fun.
I was going to say, how long do you guys think you're going to keep doing it? What are your future topics and stuff? But I think the nature of a podcast like that is kind of, whatever comes up, whatever's current, whoever you find. Like, how do you guys kind of, like, find your guests or determine who you're going to reach out to and see if they rate back?
Well, the first season, we didn't do guests. We did topics. But we had one set of guests in the first season, and that was our mothers for the Mother's Day episode. And
I should have my mom on.
We let them pick all the music. It was outstanding. They did such a great job. We had a lot of fun, and we let them pick all the songs and kind of run it. Like we even crossed it out. It was Kathy and Cindy talk music. It was, we let them have it, and we had a blast. So really, that first season, the first episode, we knew 100% that it had to be Guns N' Roses episode, because that's another thing that we bonded over early.
Yep.
When we first became friends, is that we both love GNR. And so that was another just thread. And we're like, well, that has to be the first episode, just because in our musical,
I see it behind you.
in our, in our musical relationship, GNR is a huge,
Oh yeah.
I got the slash.
Is that a slash tattoo? Yeah. There is a lot of GNR happening in the Zoom.
Yeah. So again, that just had to be the first episode, and then from then on in that season, we literally just, I think didn't we just text each other a bunch of ideas, and then we just picked one,
kind of filtered them down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then second season came around, and we said, what can we do different? What can we switch up? And we said, well, let's have a special guest every episode and let them pick the topic, and we'll just go from there. So that's how we. And literally, everybody that we had as guests, we're our friends. You know what I mean? Like my guests, I knew them. I'm friends with them, and Nate's same. We just picked our musical friends and brought them on the podcast. And
and fortunately, you being in the position you're in, Mike, with all the college stuff, and me being in radio, we know people.
Yeah.
If it wasn't someone I could directly get with a phone call, I could get them on with a phone call to a phone call kind of thing. So.
Well, I have to say a shout out just because I was looking over at my beer and thinking about that, because I'm hoping that Julia listens to this episode. But good old Julia Brewer, Mike, I remember being at Julia's house that one time I came back to Athens for whatever reason, and we were just telling each other poop stories in her kitchen, and it. That was the first night I met. That was the first night I met you, and then Julia's like, "Oh, KP, Mike has this podcast. And he's a drummer, and blah blah blah." And it was just ever since then. I'm like, "Oh, cool, another neat person to add in my circle of people I know."
I knew we were going to be. I knew we were going to be friends that night.
Yeah,
with the poop
you
stories.
Had him at poop stories. Yeah, for sure.
Poop's always funny. I don't care.
Sorry, I don't care how old you get. Oh my god.
Yes. No.
I'm just shaking my head.
That was fun. Yeah. Was that somebody's birthday party?
It was I forget.
Was it Tristan's birthday party?
No, I forget Julia's friend's name. They transitioned, and I forget their name. I forget their new name.
Oh.
Honestly.
Okay.
It totally left my brain. Sorry, friend who had the birthday, but it was fun. I was obviously more in the corner talking with Mike instead of focusing on Avalanche Pizza. But anyway, okay. So, couple other things just on the list based on who you guys are, what you do. Mike, I definitely want to touch on your band, Amethystone, and Nate, I'm going to ask you some radio-related questions in a bit.
Okay.
But Mike, you said you wanted to promote your band a little bit.
Sure.
I know you guys put out an album in 2020, but at least based on Spotify, it seems like you guys have been around since, what, like 2010?
So the band has been around since 2010. I joined in 2017.
Okay.
So they were active in 2010, 11, 12, in that time period. And I knew, so the singer, songwriter, keyboard player in the band, I've known since college. She went to OU. She was a vocal major. We were in school of music at the same time. So I've known Megan. Shout out Megan. I've known Megan since college for 25 years or longer.
Yeah.
And so we've been friends ever since. So they were active for a while. And then in that band, the singer and the bass player are married. And so they took time off from the band to have kids. So then once their kids got old enough that we could start actually playing again and gigging and doing this thing, then they were looking for a drummer, and I had just left another band that I was in, and it was like perfect timing because the other band I was in, the bass player from Amethystone was in that band too, and so had been playing bass, playing with him in another band for years, and it was just like perfect timing. They wanted to go active again, and they asked me to come in, and here we are.
Here you are. Yeah.
So it worked.
How would you describe Amethystone? Because to me, it's kind of like easygoing rock with like maybe a magical flair. That's kind of how I describe it.
I like the magical flair.
It's very... I don't want to say Ren Fair because that's absolutely not true, but I would say some of the themes are kind of ethereal and mystical.
I will tell you our genre. Our genre is
I can't wait.
Piano-driven fantasy rock.
I like that too,
perfect.
though. I like that too, though.
If that's selling everybody, go listen to it. Piano-driven fantasy rock. I love it.
That's what it says on our website, like piano-driven fantasy rock. No, Megan's themes are very earth, connection with nature, with how do people connect? How do you get through the day? Her lyrical content is very earth and people and connection driven. But then she also sings song. We have a song called the Fairy Song, and she's literally talking about fairies dancing in the garden. So very abstract and fantasy, right? Mm-hmm. So that it fits.
Did you ever see yourself as a former drumline guy playing a drum kit part in a song about like holding hands and dancing around in a fairy circle?
Well,
ever?
I mean, yeah, I will say yes and no. The yes part is the other three in the band are incredible musicians, and it is a pleasure to play with them. So I don't think I would care what we were playing because it's so much fun. Writing with them is my favorite thing. Like writing songs with those three is just it's so much fun. Like I can't even explain. Because basically the way it works is...
I'm going to ask you to. What is your writing process?
What is our process? Okay.
Yeah.
So Megan is the main songwriter, keyboard player, singer. She will come in with basically a chord structure and a melody. And sometimes maybe a riff, but normally it's just chords. She'll come in with her chords and the melody idea that she has. And then we just workshop it. She's like, what do you guys hear with this? And she'll play just kind of through the verse and chorus. And I'll go, ooh, I hear a da-da-da-da there. And I'll maybe try a beat with it. And the bass player will come up with a rhythmic thing underneath it. It's just, she literally just lets us go. And if you listen to a couple of the tunes on the record, the latest record's called The Alchemist. And that's the one that I'm playing on. And I did a lot of the arranging and a lot of myself and the guitar player, we did all the synth programming. Like there's some synths, bass synths and some things all through the album, and we did those. But it's you can hear the ones where she let me and Rob go a little heavier than normal, like but it works. Like we didn't go too far, but we brought in, me and Rob together, that's the guitar player. I think we brought in a little bit of a heavier edge to the band. If you listen to that first album, it's a great album. It's good. But then you listen to the Alchemist record, it's definitely heavier. There's a heavier edge to the songs. But that I think complement Megan's songwriting really well. I mean, we had a blast writing that record. And I will tell you this, you were talking about the whole singles versus albums thing. So I'll tell you what our plan now. So we started recording that album, writing and recording that album right after I joined the band. So we started writing and recording that in 2018. 2 years of writing and recording, sent it off to get mixed, sent it off to get mastered, did the whole thing, had CDs made, got it all ready to go. We had a huge party planned in Athens. We were going to have Arts West, if you know where that is. Yep. So we were going to have a party at Arts West. DJ B-Funk was going to come and he was going to MC the thing. Passion Works was going to come and they were going to literally create art and paint while we played. And they were going to interpret our songs in paintings. And then we were going to auction it all off for them for charity. We had Jackie O's lined up to come and bring beer. We were having this big community party. Yeah. And that of course was scheduled for like March 18th of 2020. No. Had it scheduled for months, prepping for it. And then the entire fucking world shut down.
Yeah.
So, so we were not happy about that. And so we did a Facebook Live and basically did the album release anyway. We did a Facebook Live. We were all on, kind of like this, but I found an app where I could port it all to Facebook. So it was like this, but we were on Facebook Live with all of us.
Oh, and just like separate in your own studios, like you at your drum set, Megan with. Okay,
well, we didn't play because you can't the latency. That's impossible. Yeah. So we were all on, and we had prepped all of the songs in I did a couple lyric videos. And I did a couple of just videos with the music playing with like smoke and stuff. So we actually could play the album for everybody so they could hear it. But because
it doesn't hit the same.
I know, but we had to do something. I'm like, we're not going to just sit on this record that we just spent 2 years working on. We're not just going to sit on it.
Was that
so we put it
days
out.
You were on? Was that a couple days after you were on with me? You guys were on with me?
Yeah, because we did a radio spot on
a couple days before.
Yeah, to advertise it. Yeah,
I couldn't remember if it was before or after. Yeah, but it would have made sense after.
Nice.
Yeah, so we did a thing with Nate to kind of promote it, and we did. We were on WUB. We were on the
awesome.
Groovy Soup. They have a local show called Groovy Soup.
What is Groovy Soup?
It's the like Monday night show that's all local music.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we were on there. They interviewed us and kind of promoted it, and then we had almost 900 people watch the live. So we were super happy. We were happy.
That was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn impressive to be in kind of hibernation for so long. And then, I mean, yes, everybody was like craving something to do during the pandemic, but still, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
I'll throw this in there as a compliment to Amethystone. When they were on my radio show, I was in the production studio dubbing in their tracks that we were going to use when they were on the air. And I was playing one out loud and I had it up probably too loud. And the owner of the company had to walk by and open the door. Now he's in his 70s, he's early 70s, but he was like, "Is that Linda Ronstadt?
Oh,
that sounds like Linda Ronstadt." And I was like, "Okay, I hear it now, and I will pass along the compliment." Yeah, he was. He made me. Of course, if you get trapped by my boss discussing music, you're there for hours. So we ended up listening to like all 4 of the tracks together.
Nice.
But yeah,
and I ended up sending him some CDs and some stickers and stuff because he wanted to hear it.
I mean, even though you guys have been friends for years, that's got to make you feel pretty cool, like being able to support each other in that way, and kind of, Nate using your talents with radio, Mike your talents as a drummer, coming together.
Worlds collide. Special. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we paid for our advertising.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Still, you got to use your network. I mean,
100%, 100%.
You bet your ass when my band has stuff, I'm going to be like, all right, what podcast am I on? What people do I know who host radio? Whatever.
Absolutely.
Call me first. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, but going back to
Huntington, West Virginia is going to love it.
There you go.
Going back to the album versus single thing. So with all that being said, and having our stupid release party canceled and having to do this. So now what we've said is, okay, let's try something else. We're not going to take 2 more years and write another record. We're going to do singles. So we have 3 songs right now that are in various stages of being completely, completed. One's pretty much done. The second one's probably 75% there. And then the next one, is just started. Like we
literally same with my band.
like we literally just got here's the melody and the chords. Like that's where we are on the third one. Like we've at least heard it. So, but what we decided to do was on every single we're going to put out, we're going to do a B-side and we're going to do a cover of something that we love.
I love that.
Something that
That's
inspired
awesome.
us, something that we love. So every single will have a new song from us and a cover, new song cover, song cover.
Let me ask you about that because, again, I'm really not trying to put the focus on me here, but this is a genuine, curious.
I mean, it's your
question
podcast, so
I know. But you guys are my guests. Because I'm in a new band, and I mean, yeah, Mike, you've been in bands and you're a lot more experienced than I am. Like, I've always been told, to gain any kind of traction in a local music scene, you should at least be able to play a show with a couple covers. But then I have other people going, no, people want originals. And I'm sure that changes on region. And also in such a small scene like Athens, I imagine, not to discredit all the work you guys had to do, but it's kind of like it's a smaller town. I feel like information spreads a little more quickly than a bigger city like Pittsburgh. You probably could show up with just about damn anything and people are going to come out and hear you, right? Or did you really have to fight your way onto stages?
So it's unique. It comes down to two things, I think. One, the genre you are, and two, the venue. Because if you think about Athens, right? The Union is basically our indie music hub, right? Like that's where the indie bands come. They come through on their tours. They come and even the local stuff. That's where you're going to play. That's where you want to play because the crowd at the Union want original music.
Yeah.
Now, somewhere else, which the sad part is
is Smiling Skull's not even around anymore, right?
No, they are. They still do gigs occasionally. And now that crowd, Skull, they want covers.
Right.
So that's what you have to look at is
dive bar
where
crowd.
You're playing is a big factor. So where do you want to play? Now, we do covers. We have covers sprinkled in to our set. We play, I would say, in a 12-song set, which is pretty typical. Hour and 15 is usually what we do. So when 12 songs, we're going to sprinkle 3 covers in there.
That's exactly the ratio I would try to shoot
dot
for.
them in.
We don't have enough original material right now to do it, but I mean,
right.
Everybody loves a good cover. I think they want to see your take on it, especially if you're in a band like Amethystone where you have a piano and you have someone who can sing. To me, it's even if you're playing metal or heavier rock, that's something different with the piano.
Oh, we did, and what we try to do atypical covers too.
I love that.
A couple years.
I don't want to hear 40 Nirvana songs.
A couple years ago,
Saturday.
We've played the Brew Week big event every year for the past 3-4 years, I think.
And that's where you guys just played recently, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
1 year we ended with Head Like a Hole. We did
that's beautiful.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
great.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've done, but that's the other thing. We've done that, but right now the main big cover in our set is Billie Eilish, Ocean Eyes.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
We go
wow.
Yeah.
If it fits, and it sounds good, we always do it our way.
Yeah,
but
as you should. That's great.
Yeah, we run the gamut of.
Guess still playing White Rabbit.
Oh yeah, the crowd would.
You guys
that's
nail
awesome.
That one.
The crowd
That's
would riot
awesome.
if we didn't play
if
that
you didn't
one.
play it.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Yeah.
But what Nate just said there, oh, hey, are you still playing White Rabbit? It doesn't matter if you're an original band or not. I think having people who show up for an expectation they have for you is very important. That's pretty cool, even as a band who only has 2 albums, that you have enough people who are like, oh man, I better freaking play White Rabbit. That's got to make you feel cool.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I mean, people, obviously we have a small following in town of people that come to every show and people that appreciate us, and they like the originals too. We hear it. Oh, are you going to play Hold On? You guys are going to play Hold On tonight, right? That's my favorite one on the new record. But then we also get the one now, Nate, Heather is you guys are playing Shame Shame, right? Because
I forgot you were doing that. Yeah.
We just added that, for Taylor Hawkins. So it's a song off the new Foo Fighters record. So we just added that to our set right before Brew Week. So that's making its rotation in our set list right now. And so we get this. Heather, you guys are playing Shame Shame, right? I'm like, yes.
Poor Heather's got to be the spokesperson for everything you do. I guess that comes with marriage. However,
yeah.
Heather's a great fangirl. I imagine. I haven't met your wife, Nate, but I imagine she supports all of your endeavors too.
No, I'm not kidding. She's great.
She's not ready to throw all the ukuleles on a fire pit.
Oh no, she likes to sing, and so yeah, we'll play and sing together. No, she's the reason I never went to jail. So we're good. Yeah, that makes up for a lot of what we may disagree on. There's the whole thing that you never let me go to jail, so it works out.
Fair enough.
Nate and I both married up, 100%.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Aw, everyone loves a humble king over here. Okay, great. Well, speaking of memorable moments, or maybe things that things that could have been memorable that your wife kept you from making memorable. What Nate, are some of your favorite moments you've had hosting a radio show? Like any, you do interviews and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like
so
the one with Chris from Five Finger Death Punch, which is awesome.
Yeah. I used to do a country morning show, and that's where I met the bulk of the quote unquote famous people I would have in the studio. All the celebrity interviews I did, 90% of them came from country radio, but the Chris Cale moment from Five Finger Death Punch is definitely one of my favorites. I actually ended up meeting him later in life, but when Five Finger Death Punch, when he first joined that band, we had booked them for just a telephone interview. They were going to be in town like Wednesday or something, and I had seen them at Rock on the Range like right before that. And there was a guy in the front row. Just yanked my headphone cable out. Rookie mistake. There was a guy in the front row of that Five Finger Death Punch show, or earlier that day before Five Finger played. He looked just like Chris Cale. He had a beard that was dreadlocked down to his waist. He was wearing a Guns N' Roses t-shirt, and he had a leg full of credentials. And I'm like, how cool that Chris Cale is out here in the front row of, I forget what band we were watching. That's pretty cool. And we could see him. They were putting him on the Jumbotron and everything. So later that day, we're walking around, and we walked by him, and I said, hey man, great show yesterday. So this was the next day. And he said, yeah, man, thanks, but that wasn't me. And I thought, well, let me preface. I've been in radio 20 plus years. I probably had 2 bad interactions with bands or comedians or actors. I've probably had 2 bad experiences. Every celebrity I've ever met's been cool. And I was like, man, what an asshole thing to say. Like, no 2 people in the world look like you, dude. Like, So I joked with my boss. I said, when I get Chris Cale in the air, I'm going to ask him why he was an asshole to me at Rock on the Range. And he said, well, don't piss him off. And I said, well, I'm not going to piss him off, but I'm going to bring it up. And so I brought it up on the fly. I didn't tell him ahead of time. And he was like, dude, I know exactly the guy you're talking about, and that's not me. And I was like, what? He's like, front row, Guns N' Roses t-shirt. I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, that dude, not me. And I was like, well, that's fucked up because he looks just like you. He said 2 things.
Shit.
He said, I'm 6'7". And I was like, oh yeah, you are. That guy was like 5'11". Now that I look at him, he said, and 2, I would never treat you like that. And then, so I met him. I ended up meeting him a couple years later, and he was the nicest guy in the world. He remembered the story and everything. So I'm like, yeah, that definitely was not him. Yeah.
That's a way to break the ice.
Yeah. But we had all the guests in that were famously rude. Like we had Pauly Shore, and we had Mike Epps, and we had, Andy Dick and guys like that you hear all these terrible stories about. We had Dustin Diamond. There's a picture up here of me and Dustin Diamond. It's out of camera view, but you meet all these guys, and I'm like, who started those rumors? Like, what were you doing to be an asshole first? Because those guys were Andy Dick, Pauly Shore, and Dustin Diamond were 3 of the nicest guys I've ever met in the radio business. And so you wonder what happened. You went into that interview or whatever the situation must have been as an asshole first. Yeah. Trying to start something. Yeah. So, but I will tell you my all-time favorite radio guest, RIP, passed away some years ago, but Jay Medicine Hat. There was a Native American comedian and hypnotist named Jay Medicine Hat. That was his legal name, the letter J, no period, Medicine Hat. He was Lakota Sioux. And at 18, he was shot by federal agents during a raid of his reservation where he grew up. Later on in life, he paid off federal agents to have him stand at the top of Rushmore and piss down the faces. This guy had the best stories in the world, and they were all shit he couldn't talk about on air. So he would tell us all the good stuff off the air, but he was an adult hypnotist where he would hypnotize audiences and make them do X-rated things. But he was the funniest guy in the world. He was the Just the best guest. He made you feel like a celebrity. It was like that.
Wow.
And a few years ago,
was he ever on Howard Stern? Because
he may have been. He was
hell.
Yeah, he was all over the place. But fast forwarding, he actually passed away in a Walmart, which if you'd have known Jay, he probably had a joke somewhere in his act about it really fucking sucked to die in a Walmart. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah.
How did he end up on your show though? Because the radio you work for is in Huntington, West Virginia.
Correct. And we used to have a Funny Bone, and so on Friday mornings we would get the headline comedian in for most of the morning.
Nice.
No matter who it was. So I mean, we had everybody from guys just starting out that were like, man, you're going to need some help tonight, to Mike Epps. We had Rob Schneider, we had Tom Arnold.
Wow.
So Friday mornings when I was doing country radio were a big deal. Like, everybody wore station T-shirts, and you had to be on your best behavior. And did they write ahead and say they needed anything in the studio? Did you have that ready? And I was the third guy on that morning show, so that was usually my job. So I had to go get them off the elevator and bring that kind of thing. So
if you're out and about in town, do you get recognized all the time, or is it because of hey, I know your voice, not necessarily what you look like?
Both. Once in a while, not as much as you would think or that I would love, but every once in a while we'll have a waiter or waitress or some server that'll say, hey, you sound familiar, or hey, I saw you on stage at blah, blah, blah. You're the guy from the radio. I get that here and there, but yeah, not as much as I would. It would be really nice if I got it all the time and got stuff paid for, and yeah,
well, the perks that come with it. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the best part of my job. Yeah, of course.
What would you say are the necessary skills for being a successful DJ and host? Honestly, because I'm not much of a radio person, but like how everybody, I'm sure you've heard this a million freaking times, and you're like, oh, you got a voice for radio.
Yeah,
dude.
sure.
Like, I mean, how do you do it?
Well, when I applied for my first radio job, I sent a resume and I sent what we call an air check, which now is an MP3, but back then it was a tape or a CD, whatever you could put it on. And they would just tell you to like, read a story, print out a paragraph from a book and read it and put it on a CD. So I got hired for my first radio job. I thought it was really big shit. And I'd probably been working there a year, and I was really good friends with my boss, the PD. He loved me. He was like, man, I'd love to make you full time, but I don't have a spot for you, but hang on, keep doing part-time on the weekends. You'll move up. And we were about a year into this job, and he called me Tater. He said, Tater, you went to OU? And I said, you didn't look at my resume? He's like, fucking threw that thing away. I put your CD in the player. I was like, yep, call that guy. So really the most important thing, and I tell this to people too, if you want to be in radio, you just have to be able to read and read clearly. That's it. That's honestly it. I have to be able to go in and, say Mahmoud Ahmadinejad just got shot. You got to be able to go pull that story off the internet and read it over the air. Yeah. That's really it though. If you can read a script and not sound like you're reading it, and they tell you when you first get into radio, they say, picture your best friend sitting across from you. That's who you're talking to. You're not talking to thousands of people. Don't worry about that. Nobody looks at Kelly, looks at Mike and says, today it's going to be partly, did you hear about the weather today, Mike? Yeah, it's going to be partly cloudy with a high around 81. That's not how you talk to your friends. So, hey, great day to be out in the tri-state, 81 degrees today. So great day to hit the pool. Make sure you wear your sunscreen. It's how you talk to your friend. That's all you got to be able to do, to be honest. Yeah.
I love how you just so perfectly illustrated that.
Oh, I can do this. Watch this. From the G&J Pepsi Weather Center, when you buy Pepsi and Mountain Dew, you're buying local. G&J Pepsi, local products, global brands. Your Storm Tracker 13 forecast says 60 degrees for your overnight low. Clear skies tonight. Could be some fog in the morning on your way to school. 72 tomorrow with sunshine. And Nirvana with Smells Like Teen Spirit. I mean, yeah. You might have to be able to memorize scripts a little bit too. That does help.
Oh my God.
Your stations still have an app, right? You can listen to Nate. Literally.
Yeah, we all have. Every station's got a unique app. Yeah.
I'm gonna tune in. I mean, I'm like a little far away. I'm like at least 4.5 hours away from you, so I know I can't tune in actually. But no, I'm gonna check that out because, like, I'm sure you saw all the memes coming out last year. That was, memes last for like 10 days at max. But I remember a part last year that was making fun of like morning radio announcers, and it's like, why is every 45-year-old white guy on the radio like, and back to you at Bob FM 96, and then a bell rings and a horse galloping and clap, 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 clap,
Sure.
whoop, wooga, and then it's like, here's whatever by Nickelback, and it's like, Jesus, how is it so fucking accurate?
Yeah,
like,
it is, and a lot of that's gone away. A lot of that's old school. However,
it's like shock jockey.
Yeah,
stuff,
but
right?
the people that are still doing that kind of thing that have hung on to that are really good at it. Otherwise, you don't stick around. And Howard Stern is the best at what he does.
Yeah.
There's there's nobody else that does
Howard
Howard Stern radio that's still around. It's just him. And so if you can hang on to enough of that old school feel and not be too corny with the young generation, that's how you have longevity in radio, which is very rare. You get to be 60 years old and that's about the end of your on-air career. So
yeah.
No, I mean, my cousin was a DJ up in Rhode Island, and I mean, he worked more in the hip-hop world, but he said that a lot too. Like, you have to craft a brand. I mean, it got so competitive, and even though you kind of like, you get your cushy job at the radio station, you still have to become this persona that people are going to recognize. So, he had his little fake name, and that's still what he goes by, and
yep.
Whenever the FCC changed all those rules like a decade ago, I mean, it just, it fucked everything up. I'm sure you can elaborate, but he's just like, I'm sure he felt like a part of his whole identity was just lost.
Yeah,
he's
for
like,
sure.
Here's me on the air. Now who the hell am I? I gotta go work retail to pay my bills? Like, what am I doing?
You must work for iHeart then, or Clear Channel.
I think he worked for Clear Channel.
Yeah, there you go.
I believe. And that's just sad.
Joking, not joking, but yeah.
Well, you guys were not part of that then, I take it.
No, I work for a locally owned company. In fact, they're celebrating 30 years in 2022.
Well, that's the way to go.
Yeah, it is. I always tell people, I say, my boss may say no, but he'll tell me no today. I don't have to wait 2 weeks for corporate approval. His office is right there. Like, he's going to tell me no, but it's going to be no today. And I don't waste time waiting around. So,
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You'll have to have Kelly do one, and I still need to do one, a Fast Five. I haven't done one with you.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've changed that bit up a little bit, but
what's your Fast Five?
So on the pop station, every Friday at 5, I do Friday Fast Five. It's sponsored now, Mike. Classic Liquors Friday Fast Five. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, nice. My liquor store. Yeah, nice. Good to have a liquor store client.
This Tapestry podcast episode is sponsored by Classic Liquors.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So every Friday at 5, I do 5 songs in a row, countdown style. When we first started the bit, we did it with guests. Local celebrities or friends, or like my mom was on Mother's Day week, things like that. So, give me 5 songs that are, my station's going to play. They can be a little out of left field, but still in the ballpark. And you're on with me talking about why you like each song, kind of like we do on our podcast.
Oh, so you were super prepared to do a podcast about that. That's basically what you do on your podcast.
Yeah, we've changed it up a little now. Now every Friday we feature what we call legendary artists. We do 5 in a row, like this Friday's Chicago / Peter Cetera.
Nice.
We're talking about ways to get, because a lot of the guests that I was responsible for on our podcast had done a Friday Fast Five with me already, so it was easy to go, hey, you want to do this? Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to get back to that eventually.
Nice.
Having guests on for that. Yeah.
Oh,
it'd be fun.
that would be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm so streaming minded that it doesn't always occur to me to turn the radio on, but like, so
well, it wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't for you.
But no, it's fun. I mean, it kind of actually makes me want to indulge and just see what's out there, because it sucks that, you're in this industry, like you said.
Nice.
What is Mike holding up?
His phone.
Over there. It being in an industry that you said, is supposed to have been dead 50 times over. Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you think is allowing it to survive and thrive?
Well, I can give you the real reasons, and I can give you my opinion at the same time. The real reasons that terrestrial radio hasn't gone away are 2 things. It's free. That's the number one thing. That's why satellite radio didn't take off like everybody thought it would, is because it's like it's paying for cable subscription back before cable was a thing. People were like, well, we got to pay for TV now? That sucks. And number 2, we own the cars. Terrestrial radio owns the cars. We'll always own the cars, because think about this, even if you don't own an AM/FM radio, which I don't, well, I do, but without an antenna, you can still listen to radio no matter where you are, because we have apps, because we have streaming, because now there's going to be Wi-Fi in every car. So you can still listen to your favorite radio station no matter where you are in the world now. It doesn't matter about whether your antenna, well, I can't pick up your station where I live. Doesn't matter. We have apps. We have websites. So we've evolved. We've continued to evolve along the way and not get left behind. That's the real reason that terrestrial radio is still a thing, and that people still buy ads. I mean, that's what my income is based on. So it happens. And the other thing is, people like local. If you know, people for years tuned into network TV because they like the meteorologist or like the morning anchor. They like a morning show. They like the midday girl at work because she sounds hot, even though they've never seen what she looked like.
Right.
It's you just like that. You're out in a restaurant. Guess what I ran into? I ran into Big John. He's our morning show host on 93.7 The Dog. Shout out to Big John. But you get these larger than life personalities, and then you get a chance to meet them at McDonald's or out at a bar or wherever you might be. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of it too. A lot of the bigger companies have died, but local radio is alive and well for sure.
I have to say this because I know my mom will listen to this episode. So this is both a shout out to my mom, but also I want to get your thoughts on this, Nate. But in 1982, my mom won one of those radio call-in contests. Uh-huh. And there was a show around here. I don't know if it was Pittsburgh local or not. I think it is. They're now a conservative talk show, but it used to be called Quinn and Banana. Now it's Quinn and Rose's War Room or whatever. But back in the 80s, Quinn got his start working for some radio show. And my mom happened to be, their 38th caller or whatever. And they said, we will give you, I don't know if it was like cash or ticket to go to the casino or what, but they said, we will give you this awesome prize if you show up to this Wendy's and you ride through the drive-thru on a red tricycle and order your food. If they give it to you, you win. And so somewhere in her attic at home is a cassette tape of that episode recorded. Oh, nice. Like of that radio recording, and I need to dig it up and listen to it right now.
That's awesome.
They're back in the studio like losing their shit, like, oh my god, sure. She did it! Ah! And they're freaking out. And I'm like, I don't know. There's just, I can't really think of that many things that are that fun or were that fun until like from the 80s until like reality TV came around, where you had like these celebrity and common person interactions. So I'm sure that's part of the fun for you.
Yeah, and then that's a really old school bit that they did too, and you can't get away with stuff like that now. You can never have a person ride a tricycle around a parking lot somewhere. And
no, and if you did, someone would be like recording it on their phone and putting it on TikTok.
Yeah, and that's
ruins the fun.
Yep, and a lot of the morning shows now, the ones that are still live, they'll run a live stream camera too, just to prove that they're not fake and stuff. Because I will tell you, and I'm not going to give away too many radio secrets, but a lot of stuff got faked and still gets faked. Wow. There's that one famous thing that people always put on social media where the girl calls in and doesn't understand the deer crossing sign.
I was just going to say that.
Completely fake. It's completely fake. Well, that girl called in. Well, you know what we do sometimes? We'll go down the hall to the business we share the floor with, or to our secretary out front, or the delivery guy that's changing the water cooler. And we'll say, John, call the studio line right now. I need you to act like you saw a deer crossing sign and you don't understand it. Go. Seriously. It's not.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. A lot of that stuff is completely faked. Doesn't mean it's not entertaining or funny.
No, absolutely not.
And a lot of stuff is real. Every radio show has that caller that calls every Friday at 7 to tell you the temperature on his front porch. And it's like, who cares? But it's funny. Those local characters are real, but a lot of that stuff is fake. And I remember ticking off a lot of my friends like, Gilcher, did you hear the lady that called in about the deer sign? I'm like, that's the fakest radio bit ever. Yeah, that's completely fake. There's no way.
Wow.
Yeah. You ruined it for him.
I know. Yeah, I do. I ruin a lot of stuff.
Well, it's like what my old art director used to say when I would do designs for him. He's like, Kelly, I don't want to see how the sausage is made. Just
right.
Tell me. Just give me the sausage. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, say what now? He's like, I don't care. Just do it. I don't need to see. I trust you. Just do it. But you got to ruin some of the secrets.
I am a decent editor at best. Like Mike is a better editor than me. And some of the stuff we could pull off when I was on that morning show, I mean, we pulled off stuff all the time. And it was just completely made up and fake. Yeah.
Well,
it's entertainment. I mean, it's entertainment. Theater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are, it doesn't matter what's behind the curtain. You're thinking about your audience. It's like, hey, I'm driving to work. I got a 25-minute commute. I just want something to take my mind off much I'm gonna hate the next 8 hours of my life. Like, who cares? I want to hear the stupid bit about the guy flushing the toilet and it keeps overflowing, which was a bit on Mikey and Big Bob here locally in Pittsburgh. And of course I go to work and my coworker's like, did you listen to Mikey and Big Bob this morning? I was like, no. She's like, you have to listen to it. She keeps like crying, laughing about the toilet overflowing. I'm like, I'm sure every radio station in America has had this happen before.
Yeah.
Right. Nate, you were talking about you'll always own the car. I still, to this day, when I get close to Columbus, I'll turn off Spotify and I turn on the Blitz.
Me too.
Like, I still do that. Like, just almost out of nostalgia. Like,
yeah,
I
personally know a couple of the people on the Blitz now. After growing up listening to the Blitz when I got near Columbus, like I've gotten to meet a couple of the jocks that are still there,
nice.
And that makes it even better. So I definitely tune in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's funny. No, you were talking about, it just flashed me back. We're talking about radio and you were talking about editing. I actually used Nate. You probably remember this when I was teaching at Hocking College.
Oh yeah.
I taught what was the name of the class? It was like Introduction to Computer Music Production. So like I taught Pro Tools, GarageBand, Reason, Finale, like it was a computer applications in music. That's what it was.
Showing people how to use a DAW, basically.
Yeah,
right?
like an intro class before they actually went to the studio. We were doing.
I need that class.
And a project I wanted them to do was to edit a radio ad. And so I called Nate and I'm like, hey, can you record me like 3 or 4 versions of literally use one of the ads you have on your station right now, but make mistakes. And I gave them the ones with mistakes, and
that's right.
And they had to go in and cut and crossfades and fix the mistakes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I
bet you that was hard though, Nate. If you're like so used to doing it muscle memory, you got to like stutter on purpose.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of Ron Burgundy teleprompter aspect of that too. So he had written out exactly the mistakes he wanted me to make. So as long as you read what the instructions were, then it would just come out. Yeah.
You could be the 46th president of America with that skill. I mean, I'm just saying, no matter what your views are on that.
Like some of them, some of them would be like, okay, this is a 30-second spot. And I'd be like, okay, I want you to leave too much space between the sentences here. So it's 40 seconds and they have to edit this one down and get it in that.
That's great.
And then like mispronounce this word and then say it again. So they have to go cut it. And so, yeah, it was fun. I was like, I got to actually design the curriculum.
I forgot about that. How long ago was that, man? That was a long time ago.
I taught at Hocking from 7 to 12.
Okay. I was going to say.
That would have been like 10 or 11.
We were in the new building, so yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. And Mike, that's what your background's in, right? Isn't it? What's your undergrad degree in?
So I originally went to OU for music ed.
Okay.
And after my sophomore year, I decided I did not want to do that for a living.
Would it suck the passion out of
it for you? Yes, 100%.
Okay.
And so screwed around, whatever. And actually now I didn't finish back then. I actually finished my undergrad last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I went back. I didn't have a lot left. So I went back, finished my undergrad, and I'm actually in grad school right now. So
I did see that. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh man. You just can't get enough of OU.
I mean, it's funny. I'm doing it backwards. I'm getting a master's in what I already do. Like the job I've had for 10 years now, I'm getting a master's in that. In what I do. So computer education and technology. So I'm getting a master's in that. Yeah, it's just backwards, but.
Hey, you got 3 mugs out of it, right?
I did. I did.
Worth it.
In radio, we call that a circle around.
Roundabout?
You just circled around back to a joke we made 15 minutes ago.
Oh, that's finally
nice.
Something to call my skill, which is my parenthetical storytelling. Wonderful.
Very nice.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's a recall joke.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, to circle around, we've been talking for about an hour and a half now, and that's usually about the time where I start to wind things down.
Cool.
Before I ask you some final questions, are there any other topics you guys want to touch on that I haven't touched on yet myself? Are there any side projects, any other things you want to get out there?
Man, I don't know. I think we covered, I wanted to at least give a little shout out to Amethystone. Go listen to our new record. It's on all the streamings. The new record's called The Alchemist. Go check it out. You can hear there's a little bit of Tool influence in that one for sure.
You know what, Mike? You just sparked that. I just thought about that. We didn't really touch on your guys' influences. I know, Nate, yours were a lot more general, but I'll let you finish that if there's anything else.
Oh no, cover the podcast and we covered Amethystone. We hit Nate's radio shows, and yeah, that's
okay. Great.
Talked about a bunch of band nerd stuff, and
I can give my call letters and stuff real fast.
Yeah, do that.
So you can catch me 10 to 2 at 927 and 985 The Planet, Huntington, West Virginia. If you just search that in the App Store or Google Play, that'll come up. And then I am on 3 to 7. Holy shit, I got that wrong. 2 to 7. I go right down the hall to the pop station from 2 to 7, and that's 97.9 The River in Huntington, West Virginia.
Nice. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out on some kind of app, because now that I know how charismatic and like easy to talk to you are, I gotta see if it translates.
Well, I appreciate that.
No. Well, okay. With that being said, yeah, I think we really covered everything we want to cover. So I'm gonna ask you a couple last opinion questions. So,
oh boy.
Nate's probably already done this, but for both of you, if you had the opportunity to ask any artist any question you could, who would it be, and what would you ask them?
Oh boy.
Living or dead? Or
living or dead. If you could bring any musician back from the dead to ask it, that necromancy is allowed here. That's fine.
Holy crap.
Great word. Oh boy. I don't necessarily know what I would ask him, but I would ask Axl Rose a question for sure. That's to me, it's not a matter of who I would ask, because Axl is my number one guy that I have not met, that I would love to cross off a list someday. As far as questions go, I don't know what I would ask him other than, maybe something super fanboy corny, like how does it feel to save a life? Like, I really feel like that music saved my life. I mean, I was a typical 13-year-old kid with a broken home kind of thing. And when I discovered hard rock / heavy metal all in the span of like a year, I definitely would say that. So maybe I would ask him something like that. Did you ever think your music would have this kind of impact on people?
That's a fantastic
for this many years. Honestly. I don't know. I would probably do this.
Yeah, been there.
Yeah,
been there.
Yeah.
Man, well, I have one that popped into my head, and then I have
one for you that I think is in. I think I know what you might answer, but
okay. So I would ask John Bonham how the fuck he developed his foot like that, because he plays shit with one foot that I can't do with two. Yep. But then I think I'll do a dead and living. We'll do it that way.
There you go. Perfect.
So living, I don't know what I would ask him, but I think I would just like to have a beer with Danny Carey. And just
I figured you would ask him something.
Yeah, like, I knew that was coming.
That's where I would be.
Tool?
You drum too? Ooh. Like, I have no idea what I would say. Like,
so I will tell you, I did that the first 2 times I was in a room with a famous person. And then after that, they're like, dude, you got to get your shit together. You know what I mean? You got to be professional. Like, you got to man up. Just relax.
It's hard.
Ever since then, I've been good. Like, I haven't made a fool of myself. But
can I ask who it was?
Yeah, the very first one was Neil Schon from Journey. We ended up in the after party with like all the women and the roadies and everything. And he just came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder to ask me a question. He's a really small guy, by the way. So when I turned around, I was half in shock how small he was. And the other half was like, he's like, hey man. And I don't even remember the question. It was like, and I was like, yeah, that was my very first one.
Nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. This is another question I've added to my repertoire over the months, but what's the best song or album you've heard this week?
This week.
Or recently.
Okay. Well, if you're going to go with this week, I just started getting into Third Secret, which is Chris Novoselic from Nirvana, and Kim Thile from Soundgarden, and a couple other people. It's their new project.
Interesting.
And I feel like if Lane Staley was still alive, he'd be in that band too. Like, whoa, that sounds cool.
It came out a couple months ago, but I just started. I don't know if you guys follow Rick Beato on YouTube.
Yes.
You've told me.
Even though I've dissed him on my podcast before.
I think I listened to that one.
Yeah.
But he's been crushing it lately. Like, his last 4 or 5 episodes that he's put out, he interviews Maynard from Tool. He interviews Matt Cameron from Soundgarden. He interviews Chris Novoselic and Kim Thile together with from Sound. Like, he's just putting out like content that I'm just like salivating over. You know what I mean? Like, stuff that I'm like, I want to watch this. And it's just like candid interviews. It's not like all, he's a very music theory channel kind of guy.
Right.
But these are very just, what's your approach to songwriting? How do you, like with Maynard, how do you manage your 3 bands? What's the difference in the songwriting process? And I'm just sitting there like, yeah. So that actually is what prompted me to go back and listen to that Third Secret. Because they talk about it. And I'm like, oh, I forgot that, because I listened to it right when it came out, and then I just kind of forgot about it. And I was like, oh, I want to go back and listen to that again.
My band was like coming up with a list of cover songs, and I kept thinking about like songs I like to play on drums. And of course, Spoon Man's like such a blast. I'm like, man, like, god damn it, like Soundgarden is such an underrated band. I mean, not even that they're underrated. Like most people would agree that Soundgarden's a great band, but I was too young to catch them when they were really popular. I saw them at
Lollapalooza '94.
I saw him at Range the first time around.
Just like, damn, like,
me and Nate may be old, but we got to see all the good bands.
You guys have good taste, though. You really do. You really do. Nate, what's your answer on that?
So I have 2 quick answers. One is I unapologetically love Five Finger Death Punch and every song that band puts out. Their new album came out last week, and I've been listening to that on repeat a lot. But nice. I also had Robert Palmer and Power Station as my artists for the Friday Fast 5 last week. Mm-hmm. And so to get ready for that, I was listening to the Robert Palmer Essentials playlist on Apple Music. And people don't understand that, like, Simply Irresistible and Addicted to Love and all that was at the end of his career. And Robert Palmer was at it forever. And he's got some shit that sounds like reggae. He has a song called Sailing Shoes, which is now on my playlist and like on repeat. By Robert Palmer, just a great song. And I'm like, man, this doesn't even sound like the Simply Irresistible guy, because the career was so long. So I've been listening to a lot of Robert Palmer this week too.
I love when artists are versatile enough that you can put on some shit from like their early stuff and it sounds like a completely different genre, and you get to see their growth. I mean, honestly, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you lock yourself into one thing for too much, you're just gonna be stale. So, well, gentlemen, I have to hit you then with my last question for both of you.
Oh boy.
Drum roll, please. This is how I always end my show. It's been a pleasure talking with you, but I must know, for each of you, if you could only listen to 3 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be and why? Mike just hangs his head in shame.
Fuck, that's so hard. Nate, if you got it, Nate, you go ahead.
I do. I have it.
I love the confident exit answer. This is great.
Because I've been asked this before, or
3.
something to this
3
nature.
albums.
Yeah.
Desert Island 3.
Yeah. So I'm going with August and Everything After by the Counting Crows, for sure. I'm going to go with One of These Nights by the Eagles. And I'm going to go...
Oh, that's right. You're a big Eagles guy.
Yep. And I'm going to go with Photographs and Memories from Jim Croce. Those 3.
You know what? This is feeling familiar. Did I ask you guys this when you had me on your podcast? I don't know.
Oh.
I don't think I did.
I don't know.
I didn't think I wanted to spoil it. I love that you just right out of the gate knew it.
I wouldn't take Appetite for Destruction with me, even though it's one of my all-time favorite albums. But I think it would make me want more, knowing that I'm on a desert island and I can no longer have Guns N' Roses. So I wouldn't take that album with me.
I'm surprised you didn't.
No, I would just leave it. Yeah.
Oh, and Mike is agonizing.
He's writing things down.
He is like, oh God.
I'm like,
he has a pencil.
I'm doing math.
Hand.
I'm doing math. Like,
you're like the meme with the lady with like all the formulas running in front of her.
He's made a pros and cons list. He's like weighing it out.
Yeah, like how many songs are on that record? Would I take that one with me?
Yeah. Do I do it? I once had someone answer like the Jimi Hendrix double album just because literally there's more songs on it.
That's an interesting angle though.
Smart. Yeah. Can I take a box set? Like, what do I have? Can I?
Does that count as one?
Let's see. So let me. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rapid fire it. I'm just gonna open my Spotify by album and
Fast
go
5.
and just pull something out that
thing.
I can tell you right now, Zeppelin Houses of the Holy.
Okay,
that's going, and then
what Tool album?
Right now, the new one right now is in my heavy rotation, obviously.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw me and the wife got.
Oh, Pneuma in Greek. How perfect, because I'm studying Greek, so great.
We just got those recently. There would definitely be a Tool record in. If you ask me right now, it's going to be the new one because that's what's just currently in rotation. And then I got to pick one more. Holy crap, that's so hard. Man, right now I'm going to take Megadeth Countdown to Extinction with me. But it's got to be the CD.
I was gonna say We heard about this.
We've had this conversation. The remaster is on Spotify and it sounds like shit. I hate it.
That's right. That was the first episode of your guys' podcast I listened to. Was the one about you mentioned that album and how incredible the drummer was. Because wasn't it the drummer who he like died really young or something? He
died on stage with his current band 2016, Jesus. I think. Yeah, Nick Menza. He's one of my top. He's one of my big three. Yeah. So.
And I don't like Megadeth because I not a lot. I don't like the vocals. I just don't like the.
You don't like his delivery?
Yeah. It's just too theatric for me. That's not my style. But like, if you turn the vocals off, I can appreciate everything else. And I remember listening to that episode of your show, going, "Oh, I guess I should listen to some Megadeth." Like,
yeah. So this will change every hour and every day. But there's my three right now: Tool, Fear Inoculum.
Yeah.
Zeppelin, House of the Holy, and Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction. I would take
mine's like
three.
an amoeba too, really. But those three,
those are great answers. That's why I love to ask. I like to see everyone's justification for it, and it just gives me more info about you guys. So
awesome,
guys! Thank you so much for being on my show. Thank you for bringing me out of extreme hibernation. This is exactly what I do this for. So this kind of like put a new fire under my ass. Thank you for being great guests. And I have to ask the ultimate question. Are either of you going to be at Homecoming this year? Because I'm going to try to make it. So
I was just going to say, I hope to meet you at Homecoming.
Yeah, I would love to meet you at Homecoming, and I'll see you then in my... All right, well...
We'll definitely be there, both of us. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. I'll seek you guys out. We'll have a beer. We'll do something. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to episode 63 of the Tapestry Music Podcast. Like I said at the start, it has been an awfully long time since I released an episode, so this was quite fun to have Mike and Nate on the show. And just as a reminder, please make sure you check out their podcast, nateandmike.talkmusic, on Facebook. Just look up Nate and Mike Talk Music. They're excellent hosts, and I enjoy listening to them a lot. Also, don't forget, if for some reason you're near Huntington, West Virginia, in my listener world out there, you can tune in to Nate on 92.7 The Planet and also on 97.9 The River. If you aren't near there, you can find those on their app to listen remotely. Last but not least, check out Mike's band, Amethystone. I will have that in the show notes in case you aren't sure how to spell that. Last but not least, go Bobcats, and as always, thanks for listening.